Let's get this done today.
Good afternoon. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Ways and Means Committee for Thursday, May 15th. We do have a quorum present. We have one bill before us today, but before I do that, we'll approve the minutes of the May 9th, 2025 meeting. Representative Agbaje, have you a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, and so moved.
All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The minutes are approved. We are working with a vehicle bill this afternoon. I will move that House File 1143 be recommended to be placed on the General Register. And before we go forward, we will have the DE amendment. I will move the DE amendment, the DE3 amendment to House File 1143. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. The bill is amended. Representative Greenman to the amended bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, both of our chairs. What this bill is, what this DE does, is it's a $100 million appropriation that funds the unemployment insurance aid account that provides state funding to our school districts to support the bus drivers, the paras, the food service workers who rely on unemployment insurance as a lifeline during the summer months. It is funded by a portion of the NLX funding $77 million, and it realizes $22 million in savings that would have been spent but are now just coming directly front-loaded through the state account. And with that, Mr. Chair, if there's other questions about the technical aspects of this.
Chair Greenman. I see you have a couple of expert financial people up there. I don't know if Christina Para or Solveig Beckel, who would like to kind of walk through the financial picture here. Please introduce yourself for the record and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Solveig Beckel, House Fiscal. There is a spreadsheet provided in your packet. This shows the fiscal impacts of this DE3 amendment. It sort of follows the opposite direction of the bill. So line 2 shows the impacts of section 4 of the bill, and that's that $100 million appropriation in fiscal year 26. That's just from the general fund. It appropriates $100 million from the general fund to the special revenue fund account, the hourly worker unemployment insurance account. Then line 3 shows the special education reduced expenditures. This is an interaction line, effectively, because there are unemployment costs being paid for out of the general fund. The forecast can now be adjusted to reflect that instead of paying for items out of the special education formula, schools will now be paying for this with the general fund funds out of the special revenue account that it's transferred to, instead of billing certain costs to the special education formula. So when the forecast was made, MDE provided, the Minnesota Department of Education provided data to the Minnesota Management and Budget in order for them to build those costs, special education costs, into the forecast. So because you are no longer needing to bill, schools no longer will be billing those costs to the special education formula, you are seeing savings to the state's costs for special education. Hopefully that is clear enough. Please see me afterwards if it is not. Then line 6 shows the Northern Lights Express funding cancellation. So just funding the amounts needed to pay for the difference between the $100 million appropriation in fiscal year 26-27 and the $22.768 million savings from that special education reduced expenditure. And so then line 7 shows the net impacts with the education and transportation interaction. So that's a $0 change in fiscal years 26 and 27. And you'll note in fiscal years 28 and 29, there are still savings of $47.392 million. You can see those savings will not be included in the K through 12 education budget in conference. Those fall to, in the joint target agreement, the other items line 35. There's a negative $47.4 million in the tails, and that is what that reflects. Then line 8 shows the special revenue fund. Line 9 shows the projected costs of the unemployment for hourly workers in between terms. Line 10 shows the existing balance, so what has been used so far in fiscal years 24 and 25, and then the remaining balance in fiscal year 26. As you can see, that is $33 million. That is not $63 million, which is what is projected to be needed. And then they project $70 million is what is needed for fiscal year 27. So to fully fund the fiscal year 26-27 biennium, the need is $133 million. So by adding $100 million to the $33 million that is existing, it fully funds the unemployment for hourly workers for the fiscal year 26-27 biennium. Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you,
that's
Ms.
the
Beckel.
spreadsheet.
Questions for the author or for staff? Representative Cagle, I have your name on the list.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, as disappointed as I am to see this come from the Northern Lights Expressway, I do believe that, this is a worthy cause for it. And we still have money in that account to make sure that if we do get awarded a grant this spring, that we would have the match amount. So I very much appreciate this approach. I think it's a really good idea that, make sure to keep a lot of people whole while doing the least amount of harm to our budgets, I guess. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative Cagle. I did not hear a question there. Any other questions for the author? Representative, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And not as much of maybe a question to nonpartisan fiscal, Ms. Beckel. If I can remember right, when we first set up the fund, we put $135 million in, kind of assuming it would cover just the 2 years, but it actually ended up covering 2.5. So was that accurate?
1 year.
Thank you. Ms. Beckel? Was there a question there? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Co-Chair Joachim. Yes, so $135 million was appropriated from the general fund and transferred to the special account in fiscal year 24. And the $33 million that you see currently in fiscal year 26 is what is remaining of that original $135 million. So the original $135 million funded 2.5 years, roughly.
A follow-up, Representative Joachim?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to mention that because the $133 million might go a little further than 2 years. We'll just have to wait and see.
Thank you. Representative Kresha?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Greenman, for bringing the bill forward. I support the provision to hold the schools harmless. Essentially, what we are doing is giving them the certainty that their existing funds won't be part of the mix that they're going to have to use to pay for this. And just speaking about this as a Ways and Means member and a finance chair, members, I support this, but we are here at the 11th hour trying to figure out how to move funds. The biggest challenge that our schools are often faced with, that we have here as well, is the enormous amount of uncertainty. And as I will talk about this as a program, like any of the other programs, we are faced with the difficult decisions. As you heard the transportation co-chair mention, we're pulling funds from something to fund something else. And we can't continue to play this shell game. The schools are looking at this, and they are trying to figure out what their budget will look like for the next year. We were fortunate enough to have a 0 target in education this year, and I'm thankful for that. But as I look forward to future bienniums and future legislators, and a governor that has asked us to accept tails cuts, the money is not going up, it's going down. And so absolutely, we should pass this out of Ways and Means. We should continue this in the conversation. But we also need to be aware of our fiduciary responsibility and understand that we need to put things into place that give certainty. This approach of taking it down to the end and then, oh, look, I found some money under the rock, does not work for the state of Minnesota. It does not work for our schools. It won't work for these workers. If this wasn't in place, and at some point early on, the comments were made that there was never an intention to fund this, that schools would just have to deal with that, that's a really difficult position. And those were words that were put out in a public press release, press conference. So I'm glad we are here. I wish that we would recognize that being here, putting the pin back in the hand grenade is not enviable, but we are here.
Thank you, Representative Kresha. Representative Noor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Greenman, for, bringing us together to make sure that we fund the UI for the hourly school workers. My question may be to the nonpartisan staff. For those who are independent contractors working with the school districts, who are already paying into the UI trust fund because they are considered to be employees, and they're required to be paying, and they're working for the school district, do they still get a portion of this funding that we're going to reimburse the schools? Or do they get directly funded by the UI trust fund as a non-reimbursing employers?
Who wants to take that? Please identify yourself for the record and go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Christina Para from House Research. The money in the school unemployment aid account does not go to any of the contractors. It only goes to districts, charter schools, intermediate districts, et cetera. So those contractors you're right, they're not reimbursable employers like the districts are, and the account does not provide any funding to them.
A follow-up, Representative Noor?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that should be the direct instruction to the agency, because the agency interprets that differently, whereby if you're an hourly school worker with an independent contract, maybe a school bus driver, that funding, I think they may be funding out of this packet. I wanted to make sure that it's not, that it's paid from the reimbursement that they're already contributing to the UI trust fund.
Thank you, Representative Noor. There are no other questions. Representative Stevenson, did you have any closing remarks? No. Representative Chair Greenman, did you have any remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the conversation. I appreciate this vote today, and I would just say what we're doing here is thinking about that enormous amount of uncertainty, because school districts have it, but also families have it, the families who are dependent on the para, the bus driver who's driving our kids, the food service workers, and what this does is ensure that as we look at the summer, that they have the lifeline of a partial wage replacement to get them through the year. Having and dealing with that uncertainty in this bill, ensuring that our school districts have the resources, but that workers have that lifeline is what this bill does. And so, members, with that, I would ask for your support.
This is still.
I renew my motion that House File 1143 is amended be recommended for placement on the general register with instruction for nonpartisan staff to make any technical changes necessary to reflect the will of the committee. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion prevails, and House File 1143, as amended, is recommended for placement on the general register. Members, this very well may be our last meeting for the year, and it may not be. Chair Stephen, wait, don't get too excited. Representative Stevenson, would you care to make an announcement?
Well, Mr. Chair, I think we may have a meeting on the pensions bill. I don't, end of session is always a bit chaotic, and so can't say for sure.
Can't say for sure, so there are clouds on the horizon. We don't really know if they have rain in them or not. So given that, there's a chance that our Paige, who has served us so well, may not be here. for a future meeting. So for sure, I want to thank her today. Ping Rain, I'm going to butcher your name, I'm sorry. Rainica? Stand up, Rain.
Thank you.
Too often, we kind of take our pages for granted. So thank you for your work. It's appreciated, and good luck in the future. We'll save, I assume that you're probably right, Representative Stevenson, so I'll save thanks for everybody else for a later date. With that, members, we are adjourned.